Hello, and welcome candidates to this virtual candidate forum. I'm Eleanor Levin, member of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, and I will be moderator for this forum. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer, nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes any party or candidate. The League does take positions after considerable study of issues and acts to influence decision makers on those issues. We work not only to register voters, but also to provide them with information on issues and to assist their participation in government. Membership is open to anyone 16 years of age and older. Join us. We can use your time, your talent, and your financial resources. League members advocate and inform voters. Democracy works best when more people are involved. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates. All viable candidates have been invited to participate. The format for this evening is as follows. After candidates have been introduced, they will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will then present questions to them. Our schedule of questions comes from our polling of League members. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. There will not be time for rebuttals. We are scheduled for 1 hour. Near the end of our scheduled time for this event, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. Speaking order will be rotated throughout the evening. League member Susie Corbin-Weir is our timekeeper tonight, using cards to alert candidates when time is about up and when it is up. Tonight, we have 4 candidates running for the 3 Johnson County Board of Supervisors positions: Lisa Green Douglas, Bill Hemingway, Royce Ann Porter, and Rod Sullivan. Let's begin with your 2-minute opening statements, starting with Ms. Green Douglas.
Hi, my name is Lisa Green Douglas, and I've lived in Johnson County since 1980. I came here to attend grad school at the University of Iowa and got my master's and PhD in Spanish. And then I became a college professor at Cornell College. After a time there, I left and began a career as a private consultant, providing job-specific language training. Got to travel all over the country doing that. I've been involved in the local politics here and in community activities since about 1984. And that's when I first became interested in the Board of Supervisors and what county governance was about. So I've been on the board now for 4 years, and I think that I can finally say, I should probably be knocking on wood when I say this, but I think I can finally say that I've seen all of the aspects of county government now. It takes a while for that to happen because some things happen every 2 years. I think that I'm good at my job and I enjoy it quite a bit. My focus has been on the provision of more available and more affordable and more varied mental health care. And so with that, I'll close, but I'd like to thank everyone involved for putting this forum on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Bill Hemingway.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank the League for putting this on. I guess I'm the one who caused this to happen. Otherwise, it would have been a coronation instead of an actual election. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk with the public at this time. I'm a lifelong resident of Johnson County. I was born on my family's Century Farm between Morris and Oasis. I farmed with my father and my brother, raising crops and raising livestock. I had a great opportunity to manage Roy Carver's cattle ranch in Belize, Central America. I spent 5 years doing that. On returning to the United States in Johnson County, I also worked for other companies that worked in the former Soviet Union in Africa. So I've seen quite a bit of the world. When I was in Belize, I met my wife, Anita. We've been married for going to be 28 years now. We have one adult daughter, Monica. She's a chemical engineer and works at the Arconic plant in Davenport. She was educated at the University of Iowa and went through the Iowa State schools. In 2015, I was elected to the school board, the ICCSD, for a 4-year term. I was able to do many things during my board time that I'm proud of. We were able to get integrated pest management policy, which got chemicals off of our grounds and out of our buildings. I was on the committee to get ag education into our schools. It also helped get Clear Creek Amana to have ag in their schools as well. I was a fiscal watchdog during a period of time when there was a $192 million bond issue. And I also was on the playground committee, which made an inclusive playground policy. So all of our playgrounds are accessible to all students of accessible abilities. And I've been a business owner in Johnson County since '97, and have an ag background and wish to bring fiscal oversight and rural representation to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Mr. Hemingway.
Yeah.
Next, Royce Ann Porter.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Picture this, a little Black girl born and raised in the projects of Daniel Heights Project, Saginaw, Michigan, to Roy and Roberta White. My name is Royce Ann Porter, and I am married to Anthony Porter and have two daughters, Antonia and Stacy Porter. I moved to rural Iowa in 1989 to work for IBP in Columbus Junction, Iowa. A few years later, I moved to Iowa City, where I chose to make Johnson County my home because of all it had to offer. Before joining the Board of Supervisors, I served on the Iowa City Community Police Review Board and the steering committee of the Iowa City Coalition for Racial Justice. I have worked as a juvenile court liaison, Johnson County Disproportionate Minority Contact, and the Juvenile Justice Youth Development Policy Board. I have many years of experience with youth issues outside the justice system. I have been involved with many community-based organizations and helped found the Black Voices Project, in which I serve as the president. I have served on the Johnson County Board of Supervisors for the past 21 months. You've heard all of this numerous times before. I not only have talked the talk, but I've walked the walk and represented all of Johnson County.
Thank you. Next, we have Rod Sullivan.
Thank you. Good evening, and thanks for this opportunity. Thank you for the League for hosting this forum. My name is Rod Sullivan. I'm an incumbent member of the Board of Supervisors. I grew up on a heritage farm, which is 150 years in the same family near Sutliff. I went K through 12 in the Lisbon school system. I'm an alumnus of the University of Iowa. I've held several positions in the human services field, including 6 years with the Department of Human Services and 6 years as the executive director of the ARC of Johnson County. I'm married to Dr. Melissa Fath, who is a cancer researcher at the University of Iowa, and also a volunteer pharmacist at the Free Medical Clinic. We have 3 adult children, Rachel, Jordan, and BJ. I have 1 grandchild, Zuri, and we have also served as foster parents for another 50 plus children. I'm a member of several community organizations, including St. Andrew Presbyterian Church, the Iowa Foster Adoptive Parent Association, NAMI, the Center for Worker Justice, ACLU Hawkeye Chapter, AFT Local 716, and the Iowa City Federation of Labor. And I served 4 years previously as the chair of the Johnson County Democratic Party. So I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you all. As we begin our questions, please recall that you have 1 minute to respond to each. Question 1 will begin with Phil Hemingway. Describe your strongest competencies for serving as supervisor and your highest priority for the Board of Supervisors.
My competencies, I bring a strong fiscal oversight. I have a proven track record of being a watchdog of how money is spent when I was on the school board. I also have my farm background, I think would serve the board well, since there's a problem with rural residents trusting the Board of Supervisors and their decisions that way. I've actually raised livestock. I've shown livestock at the fair at the Johnson County Fairgrounds. I've worked as a farmer in this county. I've worked in the skilled trades. As far as top priorities, rural representation is huge. We also have to make sure that law enforcement and first responders are respected, and that the rule of law applies, and that all voices in our county are represented, sought, and valued.
Thank you. Royce Ann Porter.
Yes, as far as strong competencies, I would just like to talk about leadership. My leadership here in Johnson County has proven very strong. I've done the work. That's one of my strong points. Number two is teamwork. Working with the Johnson County Supervisors, you have to come together collaboratively to make sure that you're working together. We won't always agree on everything, but we have to come together and agree on things so that we can move forward here in Johnson County. So that's another one of the things. Another thing will be work ethics and professionalism. I try to be as professional as I can. I try to be on my best behavior. Sometimes my mouth can get me in trouble when I get upset, but it is who I am. I speak my mind, and I don't hold back on nothing. If I'm fighting for a cause, I'm fighting for that cause.
Thank you. Rod Sullivan.
Yeah, so I would say that some of the qualities that I bring to the board, first would be experience. You know, I've got a long record on this board, and I think I've accomplished some really, really good things. And I hope we'll get a chance to talk about some of those later. I am a compassionate person. I'm a good listener. I take the time to listen to all the different sides to every issue that we deal with. In addition to that, I think the biggest thing that we have coming up would be probably the recovery from COVID. And recovery from COVID is going to be on several different levels. There's the individual recovery that people need to make. Collectively as a community, we're going to have to make some recoveries, and there are going to be deep financial implications to this, both on the household level and on the governmental level for a few years to come. And so we will have plenty of work to do around that.
Thank you all. Question 2 will go first to Royce Ann Porter.
Do I get a chance to answer that?
Oh,
Shall I go? I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I apologize.
Okay.
Lisa, I apologize. I prematurely checked my list.
That's okay.
Competencies and your highest priority for the Board of Supervisors.
Sure. So I have good listening skills as someone who has studied language. I kind of listen between the lines, and then I'm good at synthesizing the information I've gotten, and then using that to come to an informed decision. And additionally, just having that background in studying languages and cultures, I can take that into account when I'm considering any issue. I am a collaborative worker, team player, and try to bridge gaps. Sometimes they're a little harder to bridge than others, but at least I make the effort. My highest priority has been and will continue to be for some time mental health services, finding ways to fund the increased responsibilities that the state is putting on us for the provision of mental health and disability services, which includes children's mental health now. And I really hope to find a way to make that not on the shoulders of taxpayers, property taxpayers. I would like to have some state buy-in, so we need to really work on our legislative lobbying for that.
Thank you, Lisa. Our question 2 will begin with Royce Ann Porter. The COVID-19 pandemic, as was brought up in the first question, has created a feeling of uncertainty. What is your view of the future of local economy, home values, and local jobs with living wages?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to be asked that question. As far as the future of COVID, we had been working on these type of things before COVID had hit Johnson County. So minimum wage had already passed, and I'm one to fight for the minimum wage when it comes to paying $15 an hour. I'm truly above that. My efforts to ensure that our citizens with limited resources are supported economically and financially. We have so many people right now, besides COVID, getting them past the COVID, that is struggling to pay their rent. They're struggling to pay their mortgages. They're struggling. We have food insecurities, our food pantries, and people are just, these are the things that we have to work on, and Johnson County have to continue to support those social services and prioritizing emergency rental assistance, unemployment. We have people who don't even have jobs. So, that's number one in just trying to recover after the COVID. So, that's my take.
Thank you. Rod Sullivan, the feeling of uncertainty around COVID-19 and the future of the local economy, home values, and local jobs with living wages.
Well, I think Royce Ann made a good point, and that is, whenever you have a disaster like this, the people that are hardest hit are the folks with the least. And we've seen that in COVID as well. Unfortunately, this has a tendency to be a bigger problem for folks who have less. So we're going to have the folks who were already struggling are going to struggle even more. I do think that the county's made some really good efforts toward addressing poverty, but it's such a huge issue and such a daunting thing. We really need more help from the state and the federal government than we've gotten. And that need is going to only increase. We're going to need even more help from the state and federal governments. Actually, right now, the county budget, interestingly enough, is in pretty decent shape. I do expect that over the next couple of years, we are going to have particularly some businesses that are not going to be able to reopen. And we could, for the first time in a long time, have quite a few business vacancies. As those businesses sit empty, it is going to be hard to fill them up, and then it's going to be hard to maintain the values on those. So I do think there's a possibility that we lose some value. Oh, sorry, Susie, I didn't see you. My fault. Sorry.
Lisa Green Douglas.
Well, Rod mentioned that the county budget is actually in pretty good shape, given that we had emergency spending. And that's due to a lot of things. First of all, we have a 30% reserve. And secondly, we had some really great people that were on top of submitting reimbursement forms for all of the COVID related things. So FEMA has come through 100% on every reimbursement, and our taxes, even property tax collection, is on target. So as a county organization, we're okay. But Royce Ann mentioned that those hardest hit are those living in poverty who are already living in poverty. And the four issues that are spiraling through poverty always are hunger, affordable housing and enough affordable housing stock, childcare options, and transportation. So we have seen a lot of creative response from businesses and within our county government on how to respond to and keep people working. But we really need to remember that there are some people who are suffering so badly that they can't pay their light bill, they can't make rent, and find ways to create a safety net so that they don't fall between the cracks because of this pandemic.
Thank you. Bill Hemingway, your response.
Yes, our entire community has been affected by the pandemic. The rural residents, especially farmers, have had to deal with the pandemic, loss of markets, a drought, and a derecho. And their needs are going to be very high as well. I'm not going to plow the same ground that everyone else has, and those concerns are very valid and a great need. But our rural residents are going to be needing some assistance and some help as well. And we've got to be able to provide it. Businesses have had many challenges, and I agree that many businesses will not reopen, some will close. So that'll definitely have a downturn in our local economy. And we've got to do everything we can to encourage businesses of all size, agriculture of all size, and also promote skills and trades for our community, and to improve the skill level, not just raise the minimum wage, but also raise the skill level and the training of our community so they can get a better paying job and lift themselves that way.
Question 3 connects in that we are likely to see an impact of the COVID-19 emergency and the summer's derecho, as mentioned, on budget at all levels of government. What would you recommend as a strategy for the county to be prepared for increased fiscal constraints? Rod, your response.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say that we're pretty well situated. We've done a really good job over the last few years of planning for a rainy day, and obviously 2020 has been that rainy day. So, we have a large reserve. We've got policies in place that if we need to spend any of that money, we know how we're going to replenish it. Most of our buildings are in very good shape. Our fleet is in very good shape. Our employees are, fairly generously compensated. And so I think that we're sitting in a pretty good position to weather the storm. Also, historically, Johnson County has been pretty lucky in the university has been always pretty solid in terms of bringing people here and business here and homeowners here. And so I'm not worried. I think we're going to have to be smart, but I don't think we're going to have to do anything drastic.
Thank you. Lisa Green Douglas, your response.
Well, I mentioned it and Ron mentioned it as well, that our budget situation is really actually quite stable. So we aren't hurting. We're not going to have to make deep cuts. We will continue to be cautious as we have been, which is why we have been able to weather this along with those FEMA reimbursements. But I think one thing that we really need to look at is that before COVID and the derecho and now and after, we still are a growing county. And as a growing county, we need to recognize that in order to serve the people and meet their needs, we need to pay attention to proper and adequate staffing at the government level and make sure that they are able then to provide those for those needs. And then, of course, when we do that, slowly, step by step, all together, we will weather this storm. No pun intended.
Thank you. Our next response is Phil Hemingway.
Yes, I have a proven track record of being a fiscal watchdog and a watchdog for wasteful spending. And we don't only look for savings when it's tight. You look for savings when you're in the chips. And as a business owner, you have to be competitive on a daily basis, not just when you get behind. So I've always been a watch of looked for savings of wasteful spending, and I think the county can benefit from having that. As a board member, I was chairman of the finance committee for 3 years and audited the district's book as a volunteer every 2 weeks of spend. Looked at every receipt on expenditures on a 2-week basis, anywhere from $1 million to $20 million. And I feel that the county could benefit from that same type of fiscal oversight.
Thank you. Final response from Roy Sann.
Yes, just as the other two supervisors spoke out, I think we're looking pretty good as all department heads are turning in all of their report outs to FEMA, and FEMA are reimbursing us as the money is coming in. Right now, I think everybody's looking pretty good. I do want to thank our Director of Social Services, which is Lynette Jacoby, who literally participated in the Economic Recovery Needs focus group through NACO, and she was able to help us out where during this whole pandemic, she knew where the funding was needed and where to put it. So just being able to take the funds that Johnson County had sitting there that was not being used, placed in those communities, into the hands of the needs of the people in our community, I thought that was awesome. So I just say that I think Johnson County did a really great job in stepping up to the plate and spreading out all the needs, the necessary needs that needed to go out to those that was people in poverty and those that were in need. So I'm thankful for Johnson County and its monies.
Thank you. Question 4 will shift gears slightly. What guidelines do you personally support to balance the needs of rural and urban populations in Johnson County? The first response is Lisa Green Douglas.
So it was mentioned that there's a lack of representation for rural Johnson County, and that is in fact a myth, because right now anybody in the county has 5 supervisors to whom they can go to for their needs. So in addressing both, the balance, we have a comprehensive plan, and we made a lot of strides in opening up pathways for local farmers and for ag tourism. Anybody has the opportunity to submit amendments to that. And so through the Unified Development Ordinance and our comprehensive plan, I think that there's a very good balance of the needs of both urban residents and rural residents. Not everybody gets 100% of their way 100% of the time. So it is a give and take, and we've done just that. We are met with requests for change, and we meet some of them and some of them we don't.
Thank you. Our next response comes from Phil Hemingway.
Yes, yes, there is a trust deficit with rural residents and farmers and the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors themselves spoke about it in the River Junction meeting when they were discussing how they were going to handle that issue. So for the board to think that the rural residents have a tremendous amount of trust with the present board, I think they need to review their own tapes. I feel the board would benefit greatly from having a diverse group, including a farmer, someone who has worked on a farm, has raised livestock in this county, and understands agriculture and understands farmers. And I am used to working with a diverse group. I worked with a diverse group on the school board, and I worked with the superintendent who wasn't entirely pleased that I got there, and I wasn't entirely pleased that he was there, but we were able to work with him, and eventually we were able to let him go to another community, and we were able to make changes in our community as well.
Thank you. Royce Ann Porter, your response.
Absolutely. I'm not a farmer, but I can tell you that as being on the Johnson County Board of Supervisors this past year, my 21 months of being on the board and hearing the comp plan and the UDO and listening to the people, I can tell you that I personally went to planning and zoning commission meetings because I needed to know what was going on. I went there so that I could find out what the people had to say, what their concerns was. I not only did that, I also went out to family farms. I had people who invited me out to farms. I went out to those farms, and for me, it's all about building relationships, personal relationships. I have personally gone out to the meetings, visiting families, and I've spoken to Farm Bureau in the ag community. I find that having these much needed conversations, people really need to just listen and hear them out. They're taxpayers. That's what they told me. We're taxpayers too. So it's all about being able to listen to all people, not just some. And you don't have to live on a farm to be to represent rural folks. I represent rural folks.
Thank you. A final response from Rod Sullivan.
Yeah, thanks. I was born and raised on a farm. It's been in the same family for 150 years. So, growing up rural is not a new thing to me. I do agree that there is a bit of a trust deficit, but I think that that goes both ways. I think this board has been completely transparent. I mean, everything is televised. Everything we do, there's minutes. You know, I think we've worked hard. There are 155, approximately 155,000 people in Johnson County. 130,000 of those people live in cities. 25,000 live in the rural areas. We spend a disproportionate amount of our time dealing with the rural issues, and that's okay. I just think that it's important to understand that we're spending time on a lot of people's issues. I don't think anybody's getting a short shrift. I've got a meeting with the Farm Bureau next week, and I'm looking forward to it. I want to continue those lines of communication. I think we'll do that.
Thank you. Question 5, which will go first to Phil Hemingway, asks, how should the county help small farmers and those just beginning to farm?
Yeah, well, as a school board member, I was able to get ag education into the 5th largest school district in the state for the first time ever. Education is important. There have to be opportunities. There has to be a clear roadmap on how to develop a small farm, a niche farm. We need to look at ways to help them market. We need to look at the potential for community slaughter facilities, especially during this COVID-19. There was discussion by some in the community about getting mobile slaughter facilities to help when we had issues with slaughter plants. It's done, every deer hunter slaughters in the field, or there's opportunities to do it. It's done in other areas. So we need to do that. We need to be flexible, and we need to listen and work with all sides of agriculture, and recognize that in Iowa, agriculture is key, and that we need to help and support it, and we need to be an ally, not an adversary.
Thank you. Our next response from Royce Ann Porter.
Absolutely. Just going out talking to the farmers, and they're telling us how their kids are taking over the farms because they're getting older. I just like to state that they did emphasize that as they're some of the things that we require our small farmers to have, it makes it difficult because they don't have that money piece or the longevity of taking over the family farm. So just thinking about small farms and having small farms, if the farmers are out there working at farmers market or whatever, we can shop at our local farmers markets. We can volunteer at our farmers markets. We can eat seasonal foods, and we can get to know our local farmers. So that's my take on just trying to help small farmers get started.
Thank you. Next response from Rod Sullivan.
Yeah, Phil, you'll be happy to know we've got a limited slaughter ordinance on the agenda a week from tomorrow. So I got to tell you this, there's no way to answer this question appropriately in 60 seconds. There's simply not. It gets very confusing, and that's part of the problem with this issue, is that it can't be done quickly. A lot of it has to do with the fact that state law allows a farmer to build a house. In Johnson County, the issue we've had is not anything to do with small farming. It's that we're trying to stop the urban sprawl. And urban sprawl has been a huge problem in Johnson County. We're doing much better than we did, 30 years ago, but it's incredibly difficult to handle. And what we can't have is any person just calling themselves a farmer and then being able to build a house. And that has been an incredible battle that we're trying to figure out. We're working and working and working, and we've got a lot more small ag going now than we did 5 years ago. And we still have work to do, but we can't just open the door because there are serious bad consequences.
Thank you. Our final response from Lisa Green Douglas.
Okay, certainly, Rod can't do it in 60 seconds. I agree 100%, but I'll talk fast. First of all, one of the things that we've done to open the doors for small farmers is addressed within the comp plan. We've created a new ag district to allow for farms.
Lisa, I think we've lost your audio a little bit.
Oh, sorry, is that better?
That is better.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think I was covering it. So small farmers, the issue is around the ag exemption, and that's another entire issue. But one of the things we've done is we have supported local foods in a very big way. We have now means for ag tourism and ag experiences that we've provided for. And we also have a local foods hub. So our small farmers are having that opportunity of bringing in more and more of their product for distribution and getting into institution level provision of those foods so that they can, in fact, use up all of the crop that they create. And our county pork farm is going to have incubator farms for learning opportunities. And we have some land access programs out there for smaller farmers. So we've actually done quite a bit in just the last 3 years on helping out the local farmer. And so check it out. I think there's a lot to be learned about what we're doing for them.
Thank you all. Our next question pivots because childcare is an important part of our economic system, and birth to 5 years is a critical period in a child's life. Home care providers are an essential part of the local child care system. Please comment on how you see the county supporting the care and education of young children. Our first response from Royce Ann Porter.
Yep, that's been one of the topics that we've talked about quite a bit, childcare. There's been various groups that have met. Lisa Green Douglas and Pat Hayden have appeared in those groups, and they've had groups broken off into what they can do to help out with the childcare in Johnson County. I was not a part of that, but I know that work is being done to help out with childcare. I'm a part of Better Together, and the people in Better Together as well have been working on childcare and what it is that we can do to help the people who have to return back to work with childcare. I know that the city of Iowa City put something in place in the recreation centers for the people to be able to take their kids over to the rec center while they're working. So childcare is very important, and it's something that is one of our largest topics right now. It is being talked about in work groups.
Thank you. Rod Sullivan.
Childcare is a huge issue. This is another one that the county is not going to solve. This has to be done at the federal level. I was a huge fan of the 2-cent tax that you heard Elizabeth Warren talking about. 2 cents, and you can send, we talk about K through 12 as though those are magic numbers. Well, why not go, a couple of years ahead of K and a couple of years beyond 12? There's nothing preventing us from doing that. There's plenty of money out there. It's just sitting in too few hands. So I think we just need to, at a federal level, step up and make that happen. The counties, I think, tried as much as we can to help on a micro level here. We've applied for some grants. We're trying to do some innovative things, but this just is not a problem that's going to get solved at the local level. It's simply not.
Thank you. Our next response from Lisa Green Douglas.
Yes, so Royce mentioned that I'm on a committee called Child Care Solutions, and this arose out of our study on poverty in Johnson County. And there are several subcommittees, and some of the things they're looking at is providing kind of a mentorship and kind of a package, like how to become an in-home childcare provider, and so that many more people can get into that. Many want to do that. I'm on the subcommittee that deals with businesses, and we're doing a couple different things there. One of them is that we are surveying businesses for them to find out what the needs of their employees are, and then how to provide on-site childcare, kind of educating what is the benefit both to them and to the employers, use it as a recruitment tool. We're also looking into some the possibility of county property that would have a child care on-site facility for open first for county employees, and then overflow to the public. But it is a multi-layered thing. It has to be multi-layered. We've got city, we've got county, but we do need the federal help, state and federal help as well.
Thank you. Bill Hemingway, your response.
Yes, childcare is a huge issue, and especially now with the pandemic, with people out of work or having trouble with that, and the people that are working, trying to find providers that will take their children. The schools have been doing learning at home. They're limited going back in, so it's a multifaceted thing, and I agree with those that say that we have to get many parties involved with it. There's opportunities, and we see in other communities where unique solutions can be used, and I think we just have to be open-minded and approach it and try and bring as many parties into the discussion as possible.
Thank you. Our final question is a broad one. What is one issue that we have not addressed here that you would like to raise? Our first response goes to Rod Sullivan.
Thanks. That's a really good question. I appreciate that question because it's really making me think. I would say that probably the thing that is, if you're paying any attention to any kind of politics at all right now, you know that we're having some real serious problems around civility and the tribalism that seems to be taking hold in this country. And there's a lot of hatred out there. There's a lot of us versus them. And I really think it's incumbent upon all of us to try to influence that and make it better. We've seen a lot of divisiveness with the Black Lives Matter stuff. We've seen a lot of things with, Proud Boys coming to town and stuff. And I just think local leaders need to step up and really make an impact in terms of trying to bring people together. I think I'm a good person to do that. I think there's a lot of work ahead of us, though, because these are deep-seated challenges. They didn't come overnight, and they won't be ended overnight.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Lisa Green Douglas, your response.
Well, it's hard to find something that we didn't touch upon in a small way, but I mentioned poverty and the four recurring issues that spiral through every facet of poverty. But one of those that we haven't touched on specifically is transportation. And you run for county government and you think you're going to help solve transportation issues. Truly, any kind of change in our local public transportation has to come from the cities first. Once the cities have a plan for a more regional transit type thing, we can then help with that, but it has to stem from where those routes are and such. And then we have to have an overall regional taxing authority, perhaps like the airport or something. But we're also in the third phase of a passenger rail study, and we know what the cost is now up front. So now we have to just find ways to look for grants and monies to get that started. That would go a huge way, but we need to expand hours for transportation. And that's not a county thing. We need to expand routes. Again, that's not a county thing, but we'll help in whatever ways we can.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Bill Hemingway, your response.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. There's a lot of important issues, and I'll risk losing my street credibility and agreeing with Rod Sullivan that there's a tremendous amount of divisiveness in our discussions at times, and I have a proven track record of working in a group of 7, of where I was really the only fiscal conservative of the group, and but yet we were able to get things done. And I agree too that it's easy to be in a group of 5 of like-minded people and have discussions, and it's all well and good. But when there's others that are left out of the discussion, it creates issues. And I have a proven track record of working with others. I've worked all over the world. I live in a multicultural household and family, and I feel that the Board of Supervisors would benefit from having intellectual diversity as well as cosmetic diversity.
Thank you, Mr. Hemingway. And Ms. Porter, your response.
Absolutely. You talked about something that was not mentioned. I definitely would like to mention. I would like to mention derecho. I would like to mention George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Eric Garner, Philandro Castile, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, and the list goes on. I would just like to mention Michael Williams of Grinnell's murder. I would like to talk about John Lewis. I would like to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then it's me that's on the board on the election, on the ballot for re-election. It's time for us to talk about Black Lives Matter, social and racial justice, the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, police reform. These are the things that we're going to start having to have these hard conversations. It's time to sit down and have these dialogues, and that's what I'm looking forward as being on the Johnson County Board of Supervisors is sitting down, having these discussions and talking about it and seeing changing our policies, because that's where it's all going to begin. And that's I'm glad you asked that question, because that's something that you can't even turn on a TV. When we turn on our TVs, nobody in America turn on our TVs without hearing Black Lives Matter, social, racial justice, and all the people who have been injured. I'm sorry, murdered. You know, police brutality and the murders, and all the results end up in acquittals. So these are just some of the things that we're going to have to talk about. That's police reform. I'm looking forward to it. When they say defund the police, I would like to see how, not defund the police, but what is it that we can do to use certain monies to bring on more mental health. I want to talk about mental health in the Black community. I want to talk about mental health for myself, because it has driven me crazy. That's what I want. You didn't talk about mental health. Let's talk about mental health on these issues.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Thank you all. You will each now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. We will begin with Lisa Green Douglas.
Thank you. Again, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on, and your creativeness in having these forums in a way that we can all be safe. And thank you for the rest of you candidates. I think it's nice to hear other ideas. I would like to ask for your vote in my reelection. I think that one thing that needs to be understood is that you address a lot of issues, a wide scope of issues. There's no way that one person can come onto the board and know everything about all the issues. Yes. What you do is you come onto the board and you learn to a certain depth some of the issues, and then you learn how to source your subject matter experts, how to listen to them, how to go for other opinions, and then synthesize that, put it all together to make an informed decision. There's a huge learning curve, and it can't be done quickly. So I'm there. I'd like to continue on doing the work for the people of Johnson County and using your tax dollars wisely. And if you reelect me, I will continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green Douglas. Dr. Hemingway, your response.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to thank the League for putting this on, and your help in that matter and reaching the community. I will use a little bit of what Lisa was talking about. I'm not a playground expert. I am not an accessibilities expert. But when I was tasked as a board member to come up with a policy for playgrounds that would be inclusive for all of our students and all of our community members, I was able to do so. I use data to make data-informed decisions, and we were able to make a first in the country playground policy, which we have great hopes will be an example for others to utilize and follow. I was one of 7 board members that had all of the same information. And when the Department of Justice ruled on our playgrounds, believe me, as a school board member, there's no easier vote to cast than a vote to put in a playground at an elementary school. That's the easiest one. But I had to vote no many times because I knew they were not accessible. And that's a civil rights issue. And, I was there with 6 other very intelligent, well-meaning, concerned people But I voted, and my votes were consistent with the United States Department of Justice. So I think I have proven that even though I'm a mechanic, I'm a blue collar guy, I work with my hands, my calluses are on my hands, not on my assets, and that I can make decisions that are beneficial to the community. And I look to represent all, not just a few. And I thank you for your consideration. And again, thank you for this opportunity to talk to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Hemingway. Royce Ann Porter.
Yes. I'd just like to say Johnson County is an amazing county with so much potential. And while we've made many strides, much remains to be achieved. It's time for certain barriers to be broken that will open the door to radical change in our county. I'm committed to building a safe and healthy community for residents to not just survive, but thrive. As a Johnson County resident, I've said it many times that I am a community leader, a community advocate, a community activist, and a community volunteer. I understand the change we need in our neighborhoods. I have served on many executive boards, and during that time, I found ways to improve our quality of life through partnerships, by breaking through barriers, and by connecting our community. Yes, we should preserve our historic past, but it's just as important for us to actively pursue new ideas to ensure a brighter future for us all. You should re-elect me to continue to bring creative, innovative, pragmatic, and collaborative solutions we need that will make our county an even greater place to work, play, live, and prosper. Teamwork makes the dream work. Looking forward to working with my colleagues, Rod and Lisa.
Thank you, Ms. Porter. And Rod Sullivan, your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you once again to the League for hosting this forum. I mentioned that I have a record of which I'm very proud, and so I wanted to just run through that record a little bit. When I talk about my record, I talk about leadership during the COVID-19 crisis, leadership during the 2008 floods, raising the minimum wage, we're the first county in Iowa to do so, passing a human rights ordinance, the first county in Iowa to do so, passing a sensitive areas ordinance, the first county in Iowa to do so, passing a conservation bond initiative, again, the first county in Iowa to do so, getting a theme here, community ID program, first county in Iowa to do so. We started the 1105 project with the gift of the old public health building, saved the Sullivan Bridge after the 2008 floods, put the first money into trails in Johnson County history, created the free tax help project, created the Livable Community for Successful Aging program, added outdoor warning sirens to rural parts of Johnson County, created the local foods policy council. So that's a long record of accomplishments of which I'm very proud. If reelected, my main goals: continue the community recovery from COVID-19. I want to address Black Lives Matter issues. I want to start serving people at the GuideLink Center and renegotiate 6 union contracts to the benefit of all. I am grateful for your past support. I thank you for your future consideration. I promise that I will never take this position for granted, and I would respectfully request your vote on or before Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates. The recording of this forum will be available on the Facebook page of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County. In addition, rebroadcasts of this forum will be run on Iowa City Channel 4, Coral Vision, and North Liberty TV. Please see their respective websites for program schedules. We would like to remind you that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, and that sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. Given the current COVID-19 emergency, we urge you to request an absentee ballot from the auditor's office if you have not already done so. Go to the Johnson County Auditor's website to find the request form. November 3rd is Election Day. Have a good evening.